Okay, we are recording. Bluey, how are you today?
I am very good, sir. Good to be with you
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure, mate. It's an absolute pleasure. Where are you today?
at home
Where's that?
in North London,
Oh,
Stoke
lovely,
Newington,
lovely. Are
on a
you
sunny
based?
day.
Are you a sunny day? I don't know whereabouts that is in London because I was in London this morning and I'm back out in the suburbs now in Essex, and it's bloody freezing, mate.
No, we're having a really warm, sunny day.
Oh, well, you're a lucky man. Um, Bluey, I've got your song tracks, so I'm really looking forward to talking about them and your career, and what's happening with Incognito moving forwards. But we always start with a track, and I'm going to ask you to tell me the song which you regard as having the greatest ever intro, please.
Never, never gonna give you up, Barry White. The first 46 seconds, that string intro, it reminds me. It's not just a great piece of music, but it's attached to me because I was dating a girl, and when I heard that intro, I knew it was time for me to go and reach out to her and get her on a dance floor. You know, it's like, um, so music is always attached like a photograph album with great memories, and that intro does it for me. And I can't. I feel sorry for anybody who I'm in a relationship with ever since, because when I hear that intro, I obviously go back to that moment. I feel like I'm cheating.
I think there's probably been a hell of a lot of relationships that have been consummated to the sounds of Barry White over the years. I'm pretty sure of that.
Oh yes, is definitely contribute to some baby making.
I mean, let's talk about intros and whether whether you've got your songwriting head on your producer head. Um, the way that songs and essentially and the way that people listen to music now has changed so much. Certainly over
Mm.
the duration of the longevity of
Mm.
Incognito, um, and people seem to have a lot more patience. Even as far back as sort of 10 years, and that patience seems to be getting shorter and shorter. Attention
Yeah,
spans are getting quicker and quicker, and it's
yeah.
becoming reflective in more commercial pop music now. And we're seeing these sort of 2 minute songs and apps like TikTok being used to get music out there, and there's a lot of emphasis on getting on the right Spotify playlist, which
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess is the same as what it was maybe 10, 15 or more years ago of trying to get on the radio and trying to get on top of the pops, etc.
yeah.
um do any of these sort of changes and trends in how people listen to music ever filter through into your creative process?
It does and it doesn't. You know, obviously you edit something for radio, and but now that I've got my own label on this album, I was like, we're gonna go out and do whatever intros we need to do.
Yeah,
In the past, I felt guilty about doing a big string intro and stuff. This time, I'm not. Sadly, I couldn't have the string budget because I'm doing my first self-financed album on my own
yeah,
label, but intros really are significant. I've known that for a long, long time. In the 60s, I'd hear the opening of a track and I'd know that's a Marvin Gaye track. I'd hear the opening of a song by Tower of Power, and just by the sound of the horns and what they have on the intro, I knew that was Tower of Power. Earth, Wind and Fire, you give me just a little nibble, and I know it's them, and that's where I recognize. And I asked this question to Leon Ware many years ago. I said, you know, how important was intros to you? You said, Bluey, one of the things that I like about Incognito, your band, is that the moment I hear the first few bars, I know it's your band. So that's why you've been successful. He actually told me one of the reasons why we've stayed around and been successful, and in actually being a band that people recognize the moment they hear our music. And I think that's important. It's important to borrow from other people and be influenced by it, but you have to have your own sound, and that's always heard in your intros. I mean, you hear that. I mean, this is a perfect example of what we're playing right now with Barry White, but there is no Barry White tune that comes on that you don't know it's going to be Barry.
Yeah.
you know, and I love that. And I love that even on in simple songs, you know, Bill Withers, I'd hear just the opening few bars, and I think that must be a Bill Withers songs. And then when it happens that I find out about the song, and I'm usually right, because there is a sensitivity, there is a subtleness about his music and the way that he portrays it. So intros are very, very important. And like you said, we're in a world where time is short. I mean, but obviously I'm not hearing what the world is doing. I've just done a 16-track double album, you know, from my own pocket. So you're speaking to the guy on the other side, the guy who doesn't give a damn except to answer to the calling of his own music.
Fantastic, fantastic. Long may that continue. I'm going to ask you for track two to tell me the first song you remember hearing, Bluey, that had an emotional impact on you, please.
I came to England in '67, and it was in 1968 that I went to secondary school, Holloway School, and I was struggling because I was looking like an Indian or Pakistani kid. I was being picked on by skinheads. I was ending up in hospitals for beatings. I was suffering, and one teacher saw this, that I was hurting, and he said to me, "What's your passion?" And I said, "Music." He said, and I didn't have a guitar at the time. He said, "I'll bring a couple of guitars in and I'll show you how to play some chords." And he didn't realize that I already by then knew how to play a fair bit of guitar.
Yeah.
So for somebody who didn't have guitar, he thought he was going to instruct me from scratch. And he brought in some records. He brought in a little record player, and he brought in a little stack of records. And he said, "I'm going to teach you a simple riff, you know." And he put on "Through the Grapevine," Marvin Gaye, you know, and I heard that doom, 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 doom,
What an
doom,
intro.
doom, 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 doom. And you know, I heard that, and I started to play immediately. And he said, "What? You're a natural. Oh man, you got a career in music," because I was jamming with it in the end.
Yeah.
And I was putting little lines and playing with it. And that was a moment that really, it was somebody who didn't know me realizing my dreams, you know, and telling me, like my grandfather had done when I was 5 years old, "You're going to make it in the music business, you know, don't worry about it, you know, just be humble and be ready to serve, and everything's going to be all right."
Yeah.
And this guy played me that song, and when I heard that song and I heard the voice of Marvin Gaye, and I became a fan forever. It was the first time I'd heard Marvin Gaye in my life. And the production, the sound, and and he let me borrow that guitar. He let me take that guitar home. He walked me home. And people like that, people who see you. That's why I spend my life now making sure that I see people, whether it's singers, musicians, kids that need help. You know, when you must see them and recognize them.
Yeah.
And then your eyes must be open to that. And his eyes was open to me, and I've got a debt to pay, because that moment was one of the most emotional moments of my life.
Fantastic. And if you had to pinpoint what that emotion would have been, what would it have been, Bluey?
Various things. It was confirmation from somebody else that I needed at a time when I was broken. You know, the beatings made me run away from school. I was playing truant every day. You know, he finally caught up with me, and the teacher said to him, "Try to kind of guide this kid." And he was a maths teacher, but he had an after school music, little kind of, you know, play music to people. He was a guitarist. He'd play a bit of the guitar, and he'd try to get people involved, you know. And I still do that with kids that I meet. You know, if I'm on a school trip with kids, I make shakers. You know, I give them paper cups, and I tell them, find different grains, and we're all going to shake something and sing a song together and make a song up. You know, even when we haven't got instruments, you know, clapping and making shakers from paper cups. You know, it stayed with me the way that he was towards me. So that moment was an acceptance. It was discovering soul music that would be my career, and and it was tying me up with an artist that would kind of be my Bible, my lessons in songwriting, my journeys would connect with Marvin Gaye several times. Later on, I'd end up working with various people who had worked with Marvin Gaye, and so that journey was an intense moment. I didn't know what it was going to be, but in that moment, I knew I was accepted. I knew I discovered soul music, my path, my light. It was guiding me towards the sound that I was looking for and creating, because up till then, I could play some Rolling Stones licks, I could play some Beatles songs, but suddenly it was like, this is the journey I want to be on. This I didn't know what it was. I didn't know it was Tamla Motown. I did not know that it was soul music and it had a name. All I knew, it was this was my calling.
Yeah. And I think, Motown and I guess Marvin Gaye kind of really captures the sort of the essence of that first question I asked you about, the intro and the way that now so many labels and producers are going for that kind of very early Motown, 2.5 minute, super sweet, infectious, perfect pop. Like Ain't No Man in High, and I've heard it through the grapevine. And then, I think, I mean, famously, I'm sure, like Berry Gordy, who gets this to this day, not being overly keen on what's going on, and Marvin Gaye being like that.
Silly man.
There was no, he didn't, he couldn't hear them pop singles on there, but I don't think he could hear the genius that was that record. And I really like how the sort of Motown artists ended up being these kind of absolutely, it was the perfect pop factory. And then you get records like What's Going On, you get records like Papa Was a Rolling Stone that had these huge long intros that I'm sure Berry Gordy was pulling his hair out of his head when he heard them.
Well, the thing is, when you are working with labels and working with people who have the foresight to put together a label, they're very important, and Berry was extremely important because of that. But what you don't see is the genius that could be, because you stumble upon getting a hit, and then you want to repeat the hit. Record companies just want you to repeat the hits. If I had a penny for every time a record company said to me, "Oh, I like what you're doing, but can you do a song like this?" Of course, you're going to tell me to do a song like this. It's at number one.
Yeah.
It's like, where's the, I don't need to be a genius to know what you're saying to me. You're trying to say, do something like this, copy this, because it's successful. But it's very hard for people to allow you the creativity to come up with what is going to be your journey and make money for them, And I love that. I love those accidental moments that happens. It's like Marvin having to fight for his album. What's going on? Having to kind of say no, I'm not going to use the sax player you give me. I like the geezer that I'm hearing in the pub. He's going to play the sax on that. Sticking to your guns. And as I get older, I become more like that, because I've had the whatever little degree of success I've had internationally, I'm using it to be true to myself and the band and the band sound, to ourselves.
Fantastic. Look, we've spoke about school quite a lot already, and I can only imagine at that time coming to the UK. Am I right that you come to the UK from Mauritius?
From the island of Mauritius, yes.
Yeah, and to come to the UK, and I mean, the times that you said that you come over here, the far right was on the rise, and it was a pretty, I imagine, a very, very tough time as you've.
I'd hear the word "Packy" and I would run.
Yeah,
that's all I needed to hear, because I know what was coming. It would be chasing brother boots. Boots would be raining on my head, and I'd end up in hospital. And I ran in fear. But it's amazing how just one art teacher, one friend, the father of somebody, who's like, who would see that you hadn't had a meal and invite you to dinner, and these people change your life forever. It's like, right now the world is broken, but that's why we must all take it upon ourselves to do stuff individually. If we're waiting to join the masses, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen because we're just going to be hurting with like, how do we answer this question? The only thing we can do is just to look out for people and do whatever you can, write a letter, have a conversation, try to change somebody's mind because you think that, because you understand that you have a better answer than they have at the time, you know? So that's the only way. And I'm fortunate enough to have music to do that.
Yeah.
So it's a huge responsibility, you know. Right now, it's a huge responsibility to lift up people's morale, to do what I do, bring happiness to people.
Yeah. Tell me about the song that soundtrack your time at school.
The song that reminds me of school days is there's various, like, you know, it's already in the first, it's in the last question with Marvin Gaye, Through the Grapevine, because that was me discovering my future. But I went to secondary school, and because I'm a child of the 60s, I don't just like soul music, you know, or jazz music, you know. I love folk music, you know. I love rock music. And the Dutch band came out in my, whilst I was a secondary school, and I'd bought my first electric guitar for 11 quid, and they had an amplifier at school, and I met a young piano player, a beautiful human being, Sylvie, who was actually Sandra. But the song at the time that was playing on the radio that we used to listen to on school campus was by a Dutch band called Focus, and they had a tune and instrumental called Sylvia. And I learned to play Sylvia, and she was hearing me practicing Sylvia, and she said, I can play like piano around that, and we can do a gig together. And we did like a whole gig just playing Sylvia. You know, it's like we played for about an hour to the school. We were jamming, and it'd go off into things. And the funny thing is, it ended up having a couple of little touches of Marvin Gaye inside the actual jam that we had, because she liked Marvin Gaye too, and a little Stevie Wonder. But it was mainly around the music of Focus, a Dutch band, you know, a rock pop band. And I'm happy to say that I'm now a friend of Jan Akkerman, that guitarist.
Amazing.
And that's the beauty about the music that I followed, because people ask me, why do you do covers? You know, that was my first cover, pre-Incognito, you know, and I played Sylvia by Focus. And that would always remind me of school days, because I always strive to one day meet somebody because I love their music so much, and just thank them. And I've collected these people over the years: Stevie Wonder, Jocelyn Brown. You know, it's like they've come into my life because, you know, Ramsey Lewis, Herbie Hancock, you know, all these people that I've loved. I've met them because we performed on the same stage, or I've done the cover of their songs, like Ronnie Laws with Always There. You know, so they become friends of mine. And you know, Nights Over Egypt, Dexter Wansel, the same thing. You know, it's like people, I immediately have an in with them because I did the cover of their songs.
Of course. So was there any, I mean, it doesn't sound like it, but was there any doubt in your mind what you wanted to do when you left school? Was music the only option for you?
All the time. I've known since I was 5. And when grandparents tell you, you look at your grandparents and you're watching music on the beaches, and you go, Gran, I want to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to play music, and I'm going to go on the ships everywhere around the world, because I lived in a harbor town in Mauritius, Port Louis. And I don't know whether grandparents confirm those things in you because they love you, and and they don't really know. But I actually, you know, anything my grandparents told me, that was the truth. You know, so when she said, yes, you will, I just took it upon myself that was going to be my journey. So when a teacher said, well, you're going to, I remember a school teacher writing in my school report in my second year of secondary school, because I went to a boarding school, and my mom was working 3 jobs to be able to send me to that boarding school. And she wrote, you're wasting your money. Your son will amount to nothing in this life. You know, she wrote this harsh thing, and my mom started having tears. I said, don't worry, she's wrong. You know, and of all the people in my class, I'm probably using she was an English teacher. I'm probably using the English language more than anyone in terms of what I do with it. I'm a poet, I'm a songwriter, and it's been my living, and I've taken care of families, including not just my own, but other families and people worldwide with my earnings from that musical education that I've had. Because I didn't have a music class, only that guy bringing the guitar to the studio. That was my only music class in life, but the music class came from records, from listening to radio, listening to records, sitting down. God forbid you should have a good record collection and you live down my street, because I'll be in there. I'll be in there on your floor day in, day out, eating you out of house and home.
Well, look, we're talking records. Tell me the first record you remember buying from a record store.
At Tottenham High Road, I bought Layla by Derek and the Dominoes.
You didn't have to even think about that, did you? That was
no,
straight there.
No, that's right. The B-side was Bell Bottom Blues. I can even tell you about the B-side. And that was a special moment because as a guitarist, my cousins had taken me to the Isle of Wight, and I'd seen from very, very far away Jimi Hendrix played. Then they'd take me to the West End, and I saw him in a record shop jamming in the basement of a record shop just in the West End. And so the actual old rock scene was, and the melodic side of the rock scene was really, when you come from the 60s, you're listening to as much Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young as you are Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
It's as important. It's like the journey of various music. Joni Mitchell and Rufus and Chaka Khan live alongside. And for me to find out that they're best friends, because I went on to work with Chaka Khan, and she told me about her relationship with Joni Mitchell. And I had always explained to people that I love music so much. I love the music of Joni Mitchell as much as I love the music of Chaka Khan and Rufus. And unknowing, later on when I started working with Chaka, she would tell me that we are dear friends. And we see each other and we speak and we collaborate. I thought that was magical, and it's truly.
A lot of the things you've said, like even early on, you were saying that you'd hear, just a smidge of, of a Bill Withers track. You knew it was a Bill Withers track, and you said the same for Marvin. Having I don't think that's that common. I think that shows a real insight and attention to something maybe not on the sort of surface level that a lot of people, a lot of the general group would listen to music on a very kind of not as, I'm trying to find the right words to describe it, really not as in depth and as insightful as how maybe you was hearing music. Do you think sort of having that fascination of and vision to hear straight away like something and being able to identify it via the sort of sound of the production, do you think that was already sort of carving out a road for production for you, like early on?
Oh, definitely. I mean, you've hit the nail on the head. I would listen to the thing that has made me successful is not that I'm a great guitarist, not that I am a super songwriter. I'm able to do these things to the best of my ability. But what has always made me a good producer is that I could hear the possibilities from other records, and that I took it on as not just the joy of listening or the background in the background. This was like, this was the inspiration information, as Shuggie Otis puts it. This was like the stuff that I needed. This was my Bible. This was my blueprint in life. Every time I'd hear something that caught my ear, it would be like, I remember going to do an album called Beneath the Surface in America, and I worked with an arranger who'd worked with Miles Davis and other people, Bob Belden, and he'd worked with Herbie Hancock and various people. It's like, it was an amazing arranger. Sadly passed away too young, but Bob was arranging the strings for this album for me, and I was in this little space. He slept in a tiny room just full of records with a little hole in the wall that he snuck into, lit a spliff and go to sleep, and then come out and just listen to records and write scores all day long. That was his life, And I'd love to go into that little den. And I was in this little den with him, and he was saying, "How do you hear this section?" And I sang him this little line. He said, "That reminds me of something." And I thought, yeah, I don't know. I sometimes I listen to music and I'm stealing little parts and I'm unaware that I'm doing it, and he recognized it as being a song by Chicago that I was singing, and I didn't even know the title. And I'd mixed it up with, then he heard the end line that I was singing, and he said, "Wichita Lineman." And I said, yeah, that's the sound that I want. He says, I understand everything that you're trying to say. So having that DJ mentality, having that, your record collection, that's why you can communicate to people. That's why when you play something at a party, people love it, because you know who they are and you know what you're playing. Yeah. You know who you've got in front of you. So I'm going to touch your heart because I'm going to take you back. I'm going to open up the memoirs. I'm going to be a photograph album while I DJ for you, that you're going to open up and see your past, yeah. And that has always been important to me. And he said to me, that's the best kind of communication he could have from an artist, because, we've cut corners, and I know where to go because you know what you want.
Yeah, what a moment! It's surreal, Bluey. Like that track, I've done over 500 episodes of this podcast now, and the Wichita Lineman, the amount of people that reference that record when talking about something beautiful music. Wichita Lineman gets thrown in the mix so often. Yeah. What a record!
I'm not surprised.
It's a beauty, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a moment of perfection. It's a moment that, people who don't even listen to a certain type of, that listen to only a certain type of music or have it in the background, the moment, if they don't know the name, the moment you play that, they go, "Oh, I love that song." Yeah. The amount of time I've been in a room and put that on, and they don't even know what the title is and who the artist is, and they go, "Oh my God, I love that tune."
So good. Well, look, let's ramp the beat up a little bit from Wichita Lineman for track 5, and I'm going to ask you to tell me the song that soundtracked your year's clubbing, please, Bluey.
Now, this is an important question because it also tells you why Incognito is Incognito. Okay. Because I'm not just a musician, I'm not just a songwriter, I'm a clubber. I like to go out, and sometimes the worst people you could have around you in a club are musicians, because they analyze everything, and and if the track comes on that's just got a beat that's going around for too long, they're looking for the change, and it doesn't come. That's because they're not dancers, they're not on the same journey. Yeah. And but I remember being in a little club in Soho, a little club that only existed for a short while, called Club 7. And I remember Roy Ayers' Running Away came on, a 12-inch version. And I was just mesmerized, and I just immediately wanted to throw shapes on the dance floor, So I got out there, and I was supposed to be helping out at this club. I was supposed to be collecting glasses for a few quid, and that would pay for my entry fee and also give me a little, some fish and chips on the way home. Yeah. That's all I was after. But and if I was lucky enough to make enough, I would go straight into Chinatown and have some fried rice and a bowl of soup. Fantastic. A chicken sweet corn soup, and that was my Saturday night. It was my Friday and Saturday night taken care of, And when I heard that, I had to be somehow, and my brother-in-law who ran the club had to tap me on the shoulder and say, "What are you doing?" I said, "This is I have to dance to this. I'm sorry, I'll go back to work. He says, no, I'm feeling you. I'm going to dance with you.
Oh, lovely, love it, love it. And so has clubbing been important, like from the days of Roy Ayers moving sort of through and throughout the 90s, and that was clubbing always a place that you would kind of look towards to see, you know, movements in music and fashion and style and find out about new producers and such.
Yeah.
Is clubbing a good place to go and
Eh,
kind of research all
Totally
of that?
everything that you just said, everything you just said, you know, Nights Over Egypt, that's where I discovered the arrangements of Dexter Wansel, the way that he arranged the voices, and you, you you can go back to a bunch of stuff always there here and that. I heard that first of all in a club. I did, you know, I didn't find that in somebody's home or in a record collection in a record shop. I heard that in a club, and when I heard it, I felt, oh, you know, I didn't realize that I would be this would be so much part of my life later on. But I'm not surprised because of the impact it had on me. You know, um, I remember being at the Caravan of Dreams in that, I think, Dallas, Texas, and I was having some food, and I came out of the restaurant and walking towards the venue, which was in the same yard. And I was approached by the organizers and said, "You have to say hello to some people who have been there for almost an hour already. They're at the door. It's a family." And I said, who is it? He said, "We don't know. They're just waiting for you. They want to meet Bluey." So as I walked towards the door, the youngest kid from that family, ran up to me and held onto my legs and went, thank you, Uncle Bluey. Thank you for our house." I said, "Thank you for our house. What's going on?" And I was just saying hello to them, and uh, and then the, the the father stepped towards me and said, "You don't realize who we are, do you?" I said, "No." He said, I wrote the lyrics, the version to Always There, you know, Mr. Allen." And I said, "Oh my goodness, thank you so much for greeting me this way." And he said, no, we just wanted to thank you because you doing that version of Always There saved me. I had to get a regular job. I was out. Now I'm back songwriting.
Amazing.
It's paid for my house, and and we built a house, and I have a studio at home, and I'm writing again. You know, and so the impact of, you know, my story with music is just like, if you spend time with me, you'll realize that nothing is an accident, nothing is serendipitous.
Yeah.
You know, me, dance music was really, really important, and it led me to that moment in the future. But if you go back 5 years old, I'm on the beach in Mauritius, and I'm sitting with my grandma, and my 4 or 5 years old. So those are my first memories. You know, there's no memories before that. I'm on the beach, and the people who plant sugarcane come from across the road where, you know, and walk towards the beach, and have a little drink, and sit, and they rub oil on each other and soothe each other because it's hard work. They're broken. They have a little something to eat. Some people unwrap little banana leaves with food in it, you know, with biryani rice, and they eat it with their hands, and they're sitting there. Then a musician arrives with a drum, with a single drum called the ravan. They start to play, and then somebody takes a bottle and a fork, and ding 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 ding, and the broken bodies are suddenly mended. They start to rise, and the women lift up their skirts and entice the men to come to dance with them, and the men come through and they kind of lower themselves and down by the ladies, and suddenly the dead come alive.
Yeah.
You know, and I realized the impact of dancing, you know, and when I'm clubbing, it's spiritual.
Yeah.
Because I go back to that moment. You know, when I see a dance floor, when I see one of my tunes in our first few bars, and I see people already going, "Woo, woo, and throwing their hands up in the air because they've heard that Rise to Always There, David Morales version, and I'm connected with that. And I feel, and I'm back on the beach. I'm back to being five, you know,
That's
and
lovely.
it's like, and it's something that has started from young. So dancing is really, really important. Sadly, my days dancing are numbered because I've got osteoporosis and I find it really hard. And very soon I'm going to have to be sitting down. I won't be able to carry the guitar. I'm trying to do my best. If I can get better, I'll get better and I'll carry on. But you know, I'm a soldier and I've got music in my life, so I'm okay. You know,
Absolutely,
I'm sorted. I'll just now enjoy making people dance rather than dancing myself.
Wonderful. Blue, we spoke about Mauritius a lot, so for the next track, let's go back there. Tell me a track that reminds you of home.
Petit Frere. He was like he's no longer with us. He was, the one that kind of really created the Sega music, the raw, he's the father of the music heritage of the Indian Ocean, where my little island is, and his songs were about, simple songs about making people happy. Two little pieces of a skin of a goat and two little pieces of wood. Speaking of drums, creating a drum is all that I need to make you dance. It's like those messages, they fascinated me, because when I first heard Nlako Kabri, which is one goat skin in Creole, and I think, what's he singing about the goat for, and then I realized it's the drum, it's my uncle, my grandmother would and my uncle would explain to me that's how the ravan, the drum, is made, from stretching the skin, and then all these connections would be kind of flowing, and so the music of Petit Frere is what I go back to, anytime. And Papitou is this tune is called Papitou.
Fantastic. Bluey, for your last track, this is an opportunity for you to tell our listeners about a track that you think they may not have heard that you'd like to tell them about.
Okay. There's there's so much new music because I buy new music every day. I drive my missus crazy because I've spent like all my earnings on purchasing music, but sometimes it's not just the famous people that you meet and what's been played on the radio and what's already been exposed to you through your fan base. Sometimes it's somebody that you don't know, but they're right next door to you. I'm in a studio in East London where there's, it was an old warehouse that's been converted into several studios. And there's this sweet smiling guy, with dreads, looking at me and kind of smiling every morning. And I thought, I acknowledge this guy, smiling back. And then over a coffee, we talk. There's a little cafe just outside the studio, and he says, "Oh well, I've got a room in here, and I'm making some music." I thought, "Oh yeah, one day, come by and say hello." And I took his name, and he wrote to me, and I still hadn't heard what he was up to. And I was doing a series of shows for I don't know if it's okay to say this, but I was doing a series of shows for Apple Music as a DJ. I've got over 100 shows, Bluey Groove Velocity Radio, and as soon as I heard his music, I played it, and I gave him a worldwide stage by just playing his music. He's such a sweet guy that he wasn't kind of putting himself forward. He was playing down his talent and his skill set. And when I found out the music of Aaron Taylor, I I was blown away, and I still am. His missus sometimes sings leads for on shows with Brand New Heavies, and I met her, and I didn't realize it was his wife. And he said, "Man, I'm Aaron's wife." You know, after a show that we'd done with Incognito and Brand New Heavies, I said, "Oh my God, I should have known you were Aaron's wife without being told, because you have that same sweetness that he has, and that same kind of like hold back, don't kind of show off." You know, and this is a track that I think must have been inspired by his wife that he wrote. This is Flowers.
It's a wonderful record, mate. It's a wonderful record, and the sound of it, like as soon as I heard it, like when I got sent your songs over, I was going through them, and I'd never heard of him before, and it was lovely to get to explore it, and that track, it really took me back to kind of late 70s Cameo. Like there was definitely that kind of feel to it. Do you know what I'm saying?
I totally understand. I totally understand. There's a there's a funk and a sweetness to it
Yeah,
that is kind of like innocent, and it wasn't something you're going to hear on you know, for all the masses, but it kind of, if you're that kind of person, and if you have those kind of reference points, it's going to speak to your heart straight away.
yeah,
You
it
know,
did.
to me and you know, we cut from the same stone, so
Yeah,
you know that would touch our hearts. I'm glad that I picked a song that you didn't know, because that was in the question, something
yeah,
that people may
absolutely,
not have heard. So I hit the nail on the head.
perfectly.
I'm super happy, because I love this guy, and I want the world to hear him.
Well, they will, because well, we'll help with that, because we put together a little Spotify playlist, Bluey, to accompany the podcast, so people can go and listen to all of the records that we've spoken about.
Sweet,
And,
sweet.
and obviously we will put some Incognito music on there as well. And so what is going to be happening for the rest of the year and into the new year with Incognito? What can people expect?
Well, in 3 days' time, we drop our brand new album, which is a double vinyl, 16 tracks, because I realized that our fans was coping without Incognito for 2 years, and I thought I'll give them two albums
Why not?
in one. And as I was self-financing it, I didn't have the record company saying that's far too many tracks, you need to make it shorter, give us an edit. No, here it is in all its glory, with all the musicianship that I could put on, with all the presentation of the young voices, the people that are coming into my life, new faces, and Natalie Duncan, Cherry V, and some of the old guys that had been with me for a while, yeah, Francis Hilton, Tony Momrell, and the likes, and it's really now time for me to go out. I've been touring as much as I can since the doors got reopened, but now I've got a new purpose. I've got this new album, and I want to tell the world about it, not just to glorify our music, but to kind of open doors for the wonderful British and European talent that's on display.
Oh, that's fantastic. Bluey, I wish you all the best for that record, and it's been an absolute delight talking records with you today, mate. Thank you so much for giving up your time.
Absolutely love talking to you, Stu. What we must maybe have some food and a drink, and carry on this conversation, because I felt like I was speaking to a brother that I've known for many years.
Oh, I'd
Thank you.
love that. I'd love that. That would be wonderful. I'm going to press stop now, but don't go anywhere.